Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by XCancer. Check them out at xcancer.com. Now, these are my top 3 takeaways from Mickey Joseph's press conference today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I had to take 3 full pages of notes. Everything he was saying, I was like, wow, all right. Like, he had a lot of good things to say today. Even more, I took more away from this press conference today than I even did last week's press conference, his first press conference as head coach ever. So I'm going to try to go through this quickly, but at the very end, I'll get my top 3 takeaways. Now, when asked about the bye week, he said they're challenging the kids to get better this week. Their motto this week is Nebraska versus Nebraska. They just want to get better at football, become better football players. He said they want to get fundamentals cleaned up and get better at all 3 phases of the game. Now, when asked about being blown out by Oklahoma last Saturday, because this team had not been blown out in a long time, Mickey said, that's on me. He goes, I should have slowed the ball down, should have huddled and taken some possessions away from Oklahoma. He said the team has responded well since, but he did say that that's on him. It's this novel idea. It's this crazy idea where the coach accepts blame and he accepts responsibility because the buck stops with the head coach. It's this crazy new novel idea that we have around these parts. But anyways, when asked, when it occurred to him, when did it occur to you to maybe huddle and slow the game down and take some possessions away from Oklahoma? He admitted it was too late. The score is 35-7. And when asked, maybe is that due to some head coaching, a lack of experience as a head coach? He looked and he said, yeah, if you want to look at it that way. And then he goes, that's what my mom said, talking about his mom. So, and he did say that it should have occurred to him, honestly, on Thursday, before the game on Saturday. All right, but again, he accepted the responsibility and the blame for that. Now, when asked about Eric Chinander, and letting him go, Mickey said he's a good man, a good coach, but the numbers didn't add up, and we weren't getting better from game 1 to game 4, and he had to do what was best for the boys. Now, how do you improve this defense? Quickly. When asked how to improve the defense in a short period of time, he said getting lined up properly. Fundamentals, tackling, being in your gap, being where you're supposed to be in coverage. And when asked about, not really tackling for the past 4 years, for tagging off for 4 years, as was stated by a player earlier this week, Mickey said, well, I haven't been here for 4 years, which is true. He says they've been tackling since he took over as head coach, and there were scrimmages in the past where they did tackle every so often. Okay, now when asked about running back A.J. Allen's injury, he did not disclose what the injury was, but unfortunately, A.J. did have surgery. He is at home, and he will be out for this season. He is going to redshirt the year, and that's obviously an insanely tough situation for a young man. He's a true freshman with such a bright future. So do me a favor. Show the man some love. Give this video a like in support of A.J. Allen. Now, he kind of volunteered. Obviously, we all know Anthony Grant's the starter. A.J. was kind of the number 2 in the rotation. He's kind of volunteered. He said Gabe is a capable back. And I even rewound the video to make sure I heard Gabe right. He didn't say Gabe Irvin. That must be who he's talking about. He said Gabe is a capable back, so that must be the next guy in line in his mind at this point in time. He did not mention Ramir Johnson. He did not mention Jaquez yet, although Ramir did get a lot more carries last Saturday than he had the season up to that point. Now, when talking, he did mention this. He said they are competing this week to earn their spots in playtime starting next week. Okay, that's just in general. Not talking about the running back specifically, but just in general. All right, now when asked about Bill Bush, Coach Bush is going to focus on defense. And I'd been concerned. I'm like, he's going to do special teams and defense? No freaking way. I kind of anticipated something being said in this press conference addressing this, and I'm glad it was. Coach Bush is going to focus on the defense. Joey Connors, who is a special teams quality control up until today, is now going to be running the special teams. Coach Barrett Rude, Brian Applewhite, Sean Beckton, and Travis Fisher will be helping him out as well. Now, he addressed the offense a little bit. He said the offensive tempo is going to slow down the rest of the season to help the defense out. Now, when asked, because there's been so much change, as we all know, but not even just recently. Think about this past year. New coaches, transfer portal kids coming in, new offense, a lot of change. So there's been so much change this past year. He was asked, how are you going to keep the boys' heads up? And Mickey said, I'm going to let them know I have their best interest at heart. I'm going to hold everyone accountable, from the coaches to the players, and keep encouraging them that we can get better. All right. Now, he said he is going to draw upon his experience and success at LSU. And I thought this was a telling line right here. And he said, we're not going to coach the athleticism out of them. I've been saying for years. Everyone talks about recruiting rankings all the time. Well, let's look at them. I've been saying for years, we out-recruit every team in the Big Ten West, yet we know what happens on the field. We have talent. We have athleticism. He said they're not going to coach the athleticism out of them. I thought that was a telling statement. All right. When asked about the noise and the team blocking out the noise, because there's a lot of noise going on right now, he simply said they got to block out the noise, and he said if you don't want to hear it, don't read it. Phenomenal advice. I would give them the same freaking advice too. All right. When asked about more changes on the coaching staff, Mickey goes, and I quote, "I don't know. I can't tell you that," end quote. All right, there you go. Said they're going to recruit like they're going to be here next season as the coaches when asked about recruiting. They're not going to sabotage the place. They're going to do things the right way because that's a professional thing to do. All right. When players are talking to the media, there's been some interesting things the players have said the past couple weeks, all right? Mickey, when asked about players talking to the media, he said they need to tell the truth but can't be emotional, which is so hard to do, and I can tell you that from experience. And Mickey said, I have to educate them better on how to do this. All right. When asked again about recruiting, and we did have an edge rusher, a pass rusher decommit after Eric Chenander was fired on Sunday. But other than that individual, Mickey says the recruits are all in, that they've been recruiting because they're recruiting them to the university, regardless of who the head coach is. They're being recruited and committing to this university. All right. When asked about Bill Busch again, he said he's coached with Bill Busch, if you didn't know this already, at LSU. They have sat down and talked about the defense. All right. And when talking about Coach Busch specifically, he said Coach Busch is built for this. He's a good coach, a smart coach. They're going to use the same lingo, just maybe less calls. Okay. Coach Busch will be taking over coaching the safeties and the nickelbacks as well. Now, there's 8 games left this year, and asked how they're approaching those 8 games. When asked about how they're approaching the 8 games, Mickey Joseph said he's told the team there's 8 games left. They control their own destiny. That is crazy to think about. They really do control their own destiny in the Big Ten West. But they're going to take it one game, 1 week at a time. And this week it's Nebraska versus Nebraska getting better. Then it's Nebraska versus Indiana. He's told the team the ball is in their court. What are they going to do with it? Now, when asked how Casey Thompson, the wide receivers, have played, he said he's disappointed they put the ball on the ground twice last week versus Oklahoma, and Casey's got to make third down throws. He didn't go into too much more depth beyond that. When asked about what he's learned in his first week ever as a head coach, he says he has things he needs to work on. He's going to learn and get better every day. Kind of starting with dotting his T's and crossing his I's. In other words, the little details the head coach has to take care of. He said he also wants to get young guys in the game quicker to see what they can do. And he did say that this bye week came at a great time. It gives the kids a chance to reset from everything that's been going on. Now here are my top 3 takeaways. There was a lot, okay? Here are my top 3 takeaways from Mickey Joseph's latest press conference. Number 1, last week in his first press conference ever, I thought he was nervous. That's understandable. I completely understood and got that, which is why I didn't say a word. I would have been the same way. I talk for a living, so maybe not. But he's a much better football coach. Last week he seemed a little nervous, but here's my point. This week he seemed much more confident. He seemed in control this week. And honestly, I feel like the media members in attendance there could feel it as well. So he seemed much more confident and in control this week. All right, my second takeaway, he's talking about guys being lined up properly, being where you're supposed to be in coverage, being in your gap, tackling. These are the most basic of basic fundamentals. I coach my son's 7th grade team, okay, on football. They know how to line up properly. I don't understand everything about coverage, but if you give us quads, we know how to line up. You give us trips, you give us twins, you give us a motion, you give us a yo-yo motion, come back one way, back the other. You see all sorts of types of offenses as youth football you have to be prepared for. And of course, we're man-to-man, which is much more challenging to line up on. If we see 4 tights, if we see 3 tights and one side, if we see they know how to line up. We're talking about the most basic of basic things in football here, which leads me to my final takeaway. How bad a shape did Scott Frost leave this program in? I mean, he talked about how bad a shape Riley left it in. I think he's left it in way worse a shape. And the mountain that these coaches have to climb is huge, and that's the understatement of the century. Let me know. Do you think they can get this ship going in the right direction? Can we see improvement this year? This show is brought to you by XCancer. Join the fight at XCancerStore.com and support your loved ones, your neighbors, and cancer fighters all over the world and help them gain access to revolutionary treatments. XCancerStore.com has a wide variety of t-shirts and merchandise supporting a wide variety of cancer battles so you can show off the colors that matter. Proceeds from each purchase not only help those at home, but also cancer fighters in Tanzania, Africa. Check them out at XCancerStore.com.